Hi, this is Karen Rowland, founder of Hush Providence. Welcome to my new weekly Wellbeing podcast, Real People, Real Conversations, Real Life. We'll be talking about all things relating to the human experience. What makes up a life? What creates joy and happiness? What makes humans the same or different? How do we care for ourselves and each other? We'll even try to answer the 5 W's of well-being: who, what, when, where, and why, and how this all fits together. A little ambitious? Maybe, but join us as we connect with local topic experts, peers, mentors, and healers. Welcome to Hush Providence, a well-being podcast. I'm excited to introduce sisters Ellen and Karen Deutsch today. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Soon we will all be celebrating the holidays and the annual Small Business Saturday, which is November 25th this year. So I'm excited to welcome the founders and owners of Stewart House on Hope Street in Providence, Rhode Island, a new home decor shop. Your tagline is for homes with character and characters, which I love. You grew up in Greenwich Village. You have a lifelong connection to art, and I'd love if you could share a little bit more of your personal story.
Sure. So we did grow up in New York City, as did our parents, actually, and they owned an art gallery. So that was part of our upbringing, was just that sense that art is a fundamental part of life.
It was a big part of our home.
It was
Every inch of our home.
Exactly. And there were always conversations about not just the sort of grand sweeping role that art plays in our lives, but a sort of utilitarian role of just getting through the day, of focusing on something a little bit bigger and broader than what's right in front of you, as well as constantly grappling with the idea of what brings beauty into the world.
I love that. And so you're from New York. How did you get to Providence? What was that journey like?
So I ended up coming first. So I had an ex who had gone to Brown and ended up relocating to Providence. Both of my kids were born here. And then Karen came shortly thereafter when she was pregnant with her daughter, Lily. And so that's how it happened. I mean, it has been home for me for 30 years.
Yeah, and I've been here 22.
And so professionally, retail or not?
Oh,
No.
our background? No, very different. So I was in web design. So I was in account management and business development in a web agency, web design agency.
And I've been in writing and teaching for over 20 years. So part of the birth of this business was that the youngest of our kids just graduated from college last May. And we had said for a number of years, once we feel like the sort of spotlight of life comes back on us, and there are no children in the household, we're really going to go back to what we think of as the family business.
So besides your parents' art gallery, any other influencers to your design aesthetic?
Ooh, that's a great question. So it's interesting. Karen and I overlap quite a bit. I think that there is a lot that we got from our parents' aesthetic, just growing up and being surrounded by that. But then we veer also. So I definitely tend to be a little bit more traditional, really appreciate classic lines, love anything that has some sense of English design, English interiors. And then Karen is definitely more modern.
Yep, I have slightly more contemporary aesthetic with also an appreciation of sort of Far Eastern aesthetics. And so, yeah, we feel like there's a good sort of 60 to 70% overlap in the center.
Yes.
And I think, some of it has to do with sort of life philosophy, things that we're drawn to, things that we've read, that we seek out. And so that's kind of the fun of it, is to validate what we both agree on, but also to stretch ourselves based on where we may differ.
Absolutely. I think we both bring a real appreciation for each other's style. And it absolutely allows us to offer something much broader to our customers than if one of us was doing this alone.
So let's talk shop for a little bit. Speak to the uniqueness of owning a family business, the sister dynamic, how your shop differentiates from neighboring businesses, and what a customer might find when they enter.
So I will say that, a lot of where our shop began lies in the aesthetic of the physical space. That one of the really wonderful things about owning a business in Rhode Island is an appreciation for Rhode Island's sort of preserved architecture. We found this space on Hope and John Street, and we absolutely fell in love with all of its history. It's got these big windows. We look out on a church. We've got this wonderful, 100, 200-year-old neighborhood. I think that's what everyone loves about Rhode Island, is there's a sense of American history in it. And so we really felt like we could find a home here. And I would say probably the very sort of foundation of our shop is color.
Yes.
We just love we think there's a lot of joy in color.
And texture and patterns and mixing of all of those elements.
Yeah.
And finding the right layering for each person, because it's different. In terms of starting the business, as a family unit, and I think Karen will agree with me because we talk about it often. There's something quite bizarre about taking something on that is completely different than what we did personally in our professional lives, and yet have it evolve with such ease. Like it just feels like, well, of course we are doing this. And there is a steep learning curve in terms of, the mechanics of a business and establishing relationships with vendors and purchasing inventory and how much you need to do and all of these little things that go into it. But, and I think at a different time in our lives, maybe that would have been overwhelming. And yet I don't know if I have ever taken something on completely new and not at all felt anxious about it. Like it just every day unfolds as if like, well, of course, this is how it's happening. Like, it's just meant to be like this. There is an ease.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that we both believe in very strongly is the comfort of home.
Yes.
That your physical space, where you retreat to, where you lay your head, where you wake up in the morning, can be for you something that is both comforting and also really stimulating. And I think we've always loved to surround ourselves with things that make us feel a sort of cozy and comfortable
and safe.
Yeah. And also, occasionally you have a pop of something. It could be a piece of art, it could be a piece of literature, it could be a gift that was, you bought for yourself or was given to you by a friend or a loved one, that is sort of flush with memory, that brings the outside world into you. And, the two of us have always valued that space, those sort of four corners. And everyone feels strongly, I think, about their home. And it could be, that all of that comfort can emanate from a kitchen. It can emanate from a bedroom. It can emanate from, the smallest of spaces.
Yes.
So why the name Stewart House?
That's the name of the apartment building that we grew up in. And so in terms of evoking that sense of home for us, I mean, that's it. It felt like there was actually no other name that we could have.
We settled on that very quickly because, it was the quickest way to sort of say, this is what we have valued growing up and as adults.
I love that. So interior designer Jeremiah Brent, he has a new book entitled The Space That Keeps You, due in February of 24, which I'm excited to take a look at. He talks about the emotional meaning of home, which you just touched on. Home provides purpose, intention, a safe place to live and create. I'm loving the conversation around creative well-being and creative living, creative expression of what we've done, who we are, what we aspire to be. Can you elaborate on building a home narrative?
Also, I will just say I love that phrase,
Yeah.
home narrative,
Yes.
because we believe very strongly that any home aesthetic is a series of sort of intertwined stories. The story of who you are, the story of your loved ones, the story of where you've been, sometimes aspirationally where you want to go. I think that the word narrative is so rich. It's a tapestry of sorts, and we really believe that all of those small corners are a reflection of who you are and a reflection of who you want to be. We're always a work in progress. And sometimes as we work toward our better and best selves, we sometimes look for outside influences, things and people that we respect. A splash of optimistic color to say, this is my guiding light today.
Yeah. Yeah. And both of us, it began with our parents' home, which was filled with items from their travels, photos of family, photos of them when they were younger. It just, every inch was covered with personal items. And so that plays a really big role in each of our homes. There are pieces that we've collected for years, art that may have been purchased when we were in our 20s. That's really meaningful. And then items that, now are purchased because they resonate in some way. And it's exactly as Karen said, you want somebody, we both want people coming into our homes to get a really true sense of what we value and who we are.
And that's what we've tried to do with our shop as well. We're very particular about what we carry because all of these items are made with purpose, with vision, with value. We do focus quite a bit on women-owned businesses across the world. That sense that women are doing a lot more in this world than they are often given credit for. The building blocks of vision, of belief in oneself, of belief in the decency of humanity. I know it sounds silly, but we believe very strongly that people who are working toward a better world often do it in small ways. And so, we carry pillows and throws that are hand loomed and that are done with an homage towards other female artists. And one of the things we hope to do in this shop is to convey that every single item in this store is made, with the sort of deep faith of a human being who believes that they're bringing beauty into this world. And so, yeah, you might buy a pillow or a bowl or a glass that has been made with a trained staff of special needs workers, and you will know that this is a small gift in your life. I mean, we really, truly believe that. It's not just commerce.
Right.
That's beautiful. In your website, you talk about a layered approach versus just one perspective to reflect a home's ever-evolving style. What's your favorite room to design and why?
You want to go first? I mean, for me, I think the heart of my home is always the kitchen, actually. And I feel like that's where I'm sort of most relaxed. It's sort of my alone time as well. I really like to throw myself into a project, a cooking project. I'll stay in the kitchen for hours on end, sometimes days on end if I have the time. And so for me, I always really like to integrate art into a kitchen, rugs into a kitchen. It's not just a sterile surface. I really like to spend time there. And so I like to sort of expand that sense of what a kitchen can be.
So for me, it is probably the living room. It is a place of comfort. It's where the family comes together. It is where the dog is invited on all surfaces. It is, and it is filled with art. It is hard for me when I bring art into the home to not want to immediately hang it in the living room, because I feel like that's where the greatest number of people will be able to see it, and take something from it. But it's interesting. The other thing that I love so much, and it's often overlooked, are the sight lines into other rooms. So that's those little transitional views that I don't think people often think about designing, but they're so important. I want to sit in anywhere I sit in my house. I want to be able to still relish in the view that I have into the next room. And I want something to guide me there. And so those are the little areas that I just embrace.
Yeah, our blog for this month has to do with small spaces. And so sometimes, the spaces that either you only see peripherally, or perhaps you're the only person who sees, can often be a wonderful reflection of who you are, what you're thinking. And so you don't want to overlook those tiny little spaces as well.
Very cool. And now a shout out to our sponsor, the Good Seed Market, 138 Central Avenue, Seekonk, Massachusetts. Started in 1989 by 3 friends with a goal of creating a neighborhood market offering simple, natural, organic products for a healthy lifestyle. Now a member of the independent Natural Foods Retailer Association, our friends at the Good Seed are offering our listeners a 10% discount on their first purchase just by mentioning Hush Providence. The Good Seed Market, a place where ideas can grow. So you guys clearly have a true partnership with complementary strengths. The website design, all of the tech stuff, you're a tech genius. Kudos to Ellen and your husband. So beautifully and tastefully done. Your website is amazing. And I also love the connection always back to story, filling spaces with love and reverence, acknowledging the stories within the walls and the new ones forming. Karen, congratulations on your amazing storytelling. It's actually what drew me in. Maybe you want to highlight some of the Stewart House stories?
Yeah, we do love to sort of share some of the memories of us growing up and just our lives now, and how that has helped inform this business and does so on a daily basis. I do think that, we had talked a little bit about our parents. I think anyone, particularly, if you're a grown person, I think you come to know your parents in a different way with every decade that you live. And so that's been a really interesting and fun thing for us, is that we feel, owning this business, that we now have a better sense of who our parents were when they were working together and operating a gallery. And I feel like in every year we come to know ourselves, in every week and month that we come to know our customers better, we have a better sense of where we came from and what our parents did for us and who they were as human beings. That's been a really interesting part of this odyssey, is coming to know yourself better by understanding a past that you only saw in one way.
It's so true. And it is interesting. And we joke about it all the time, but the memories that we have of both of us rolling our eyes at the dinner table as our parents would only talk about the gallery and the stories that came out of it. And yet we have placed ourselves in very similar shoes. and likewise, our spouses, our children probably would say that our regaling of them of the stories that come out of Stewart House is a similar experience.
I encourage all of our listeners to check out the website and read some of those stories because they're beautifully done. And before I forget, congratulations on the recent article in New England Home Magazine.
Thank you.
It was a beautiful portrait of the store. I especially love the quote, "Seeing my sister in a professional capacity is one of my favorite parts of this job." It captures the essence and love in your relationship and the welcoming nature of the shop. So it's a beautiful article.
Thank you so much. And thanks to Erica for writing it.
Yes.
Let's transition to the upcoming holiday season. Do you have anything special planned for that?
Oh, I mean, I think a lot of people love the holidays. It's absolutely a celebration of home. I think the older we've gotten, the more we like to sort of hunker down.
Yes.
Sometimes that celebration is not a big celebration. And we're well aware that some people have extremely small celebrations, and that's just as meaningful, sometimes more meaningful. And so we really want to make the holidays accessible. It doesn't have to be grand. Sometimes it's really just a sense of, I want to sit down and be quiet. I want to have a small meal. I sent a text to all the kids when we were talking about the holidays to say, I'm an early planner. And so I've been planning Thanksgiving for a long period of time. And I'm already on to the December holidays. And it was funny to me that the kids sort of said, we'd love a homey sort of stew-based meal for the holidays. And I thought, wow, that's unexpected. And that gives me full permission to dial it back, right? So we're really looking to sort of recreate the sense, SCENTS, the sense of the holidays. What smells good? What brings you back to something that's really reassuring? The
warmth, the coziness.
Right.
We want to recreate all of that in our little shop for every person who comes in. And hopefully that they can find something that contributes to their home that adds those elements.
Right. So you can do a big dinner party, and that is so fun. We love that. And we've got everything for that, no doubt about it. You can dress a table to the nines, but also it might be one small ornament. It might be, the scent of cypress that fills the air and makes you think of a Robert Frost poem, anything that brings you that sense that you're in the right place. And that for maybe one day or a few days, the sort of stress of the world, which has become overwhelming, might be lifted, right? Where you might buy yourself, and this is a privilege not everybody has, where you might buy yourself peace for just a few hours to spend with loved ones, to be grateful for your surroundings. We're just very aware that of the conflict in the world today. And we are just trying to create for ourselves and all of our customers
respite,
a little safety, which is not to say, we don't remain aware of the struggles that everyone is in the midst of, but you can't get through the day if that fills your mind 24 hours a day, fully aware that not everyone has that privilege.
So important. Well said. I have a few more questions. This is a well-being podcast, so I want to make sure that you guys are taking care of yourself. What is it that you're doing to do that?
On a grander level, this endeavor, I think has offered a change of pace for each of us. That has been really wonderful. I would love to be able to say that I also manage to work out several times a week and I do all that. And there are certainly grand plans for that in the future. But one of the best things that has kind of entered our world right now is this space of time in the morning, because our shop opens at 11 and we certainly get here earlier, but it allows us time to just sit in the morning.
We call it robe time.
Robe time. We have found that each one of us partakes in this and just completely loves it, where you just linger. You linger over coffee in the morning.
Which we've not had the opportunity to do earlier in our lives.
Exactly.
We were out the door at 7:30. And so now to have 45 minutes to an hour more in the morning is really spectacular.
Of just peace. And whether it's filled with reading or nothing at all other than coffee or word games that keep creeping into my life. But it's just unscheduled time. And that has been, that's been a joy.
Yeah. And my fallback is always literature, and sometimes even without a lot of time, if I feel so wrapped up in the events of the day, and I can grab 15 minutes, there's a poem out there in the world. And it might be one that I know very well, and it might be something new to me. But I will try and find that time to remember a bigger picture, something broader than what's right in front of me. I think one of the things that we try and do in our work on a daily basis is try and connect something small to something universal. For me, literature has always been that link. But we try and do that in the shop as well. You know, sometimes a bowl is not just a bowl. Sometimes, you know, a candle is not just a candle. When it comes from halfway around the world, sometimes there's a communal link that someone didn't even know that they had. And so again, we're always in the process of trying to tell those stories so that people know they're connected to people that they've never met before.
Lovely. If you were writing an autobiography, what would this chapter in your life be called?
For me, it would be called Homecoming. It is, I mean, obviously there's a huge focus on home, but there is something about doing this with Karen that feels like circling back to how we grew up, and but bringing everything else I have learned in a good, healthy life, bringing all of these lessons back to the familiar. And
Yeah. For me, it would be dessert. For sure. It's a sweet stage of life. And I've talked about this a little bit, but I did not anticipate that this would be the favorite part of my life. I think, you know, for women who hit the age of 50, wow, I just didn't realize until I got there how rich this part of life is, how much you've learned, how much you've given, how much you've gotten, and how much you can put that into practice, and how much confidence you have in yourself at this stage. You know, I remember myself at 20 and at 30, and I was really making it up as I went along and hoping for the best. I think we're proud of who we are and what we've done. We're proud of our kids. We're proud of the decisions that we've made, and we're proud we got through some of the decisions we perhaps, you know, would redo. And so, yeah, this is a sweet stage of life.
It is. There's no pretense anymore. Like you're not pretending to be somebody else.
And we're not necessarily working to please
other
others.
people's shoes. Like it is literally, it is us through and through.
Yeah.
So beautiful. You guys are amazing. You really are. How do we connect with you? Tell our listeners the best way to do that.
So you can visit our website, which is stewarthousepvd.com. Follow us on Instagram at stewarthousepvd. Please come visit us in the shop. As we say, we do expect a busy holiday season, but one of the very best things about the past few months is being able to meet our community members, seeing old friends, making new friends. It's those conversations that we have when we hear about an event someone's doing, a dinner that they had,
a gift they need to buy for somebody, and we get to learn a little bit more about the relationship.
We just
so
love
wonderful.
Our community. We love this opportunity to meet other people and to play the smallest part in helping create their home experiences.
And remember, Small Business Saturday is November 25th, so please add Stewart House to your list. Thank you both for joining me today. It's been a pleasure. And
thank you. A pleasure for us.
To all of our listeners, be well. Thank you. Thanks, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to Hush Providence, a well-being podcast. This would not be possible without the incredible help from Jamie Farinella and Stephanie Whitehead on branding and logo concept, John Papa's endless generosity, David Davignon and Austin Lynch for their skilled technical expertise, and of course, our amazing guests and all of you, our listeners. Until next time, be well.